The town of Ravenswood was never the same after the nightmares began. It started as whispers, pregnant women waking in the dead of night, convinced they had heard something calling their unborn children's names. Shadows flickered at the edges of candlelight, and the scent of something rotten clung to the air. Then the attacks began. Sarah Jenkins was the first. Her husband, John, found her trembling in their bedroom, hands clutched over her swollen belly, blood staining the sheets beneath her. But there were no wounds, no sign of what had happened. She could remember nothing except the overwhelming feeling of being watched. The town dismissed it as a fluke, a woman's overactive imagination, until it happened again. Emily Wilson, Sarah's best friend, was found in her kitchen, unconscious, strange symbols carved into her arms. Her fiancé, Michael, swore he had heard her whispering in her sleep the night before, speaking to someone who wasn't there. Then, Rachel Lee, another pregnant woman, vanished for 3 days. When she returned, she did not speak. She did not eat. She only sat in silence, eyes vacant, hands trembling. It wasn't until Father Thomas arrived that the truth began to take shape. He had seen cases like this before, though he wished he hadn't. He listened to the women's stories, saw the symbols, felt the weight of something unholy pressing down upon the town. "Malom," he whispered, "a demon of despair. It feeds on the fear of mothers and the souls of the unborn." John and Michael listened, horror tightening their throats. "How do we stop it?" John demanded. Father Thomas hesitated. "Malom is not just a demon. It is a curse. Something in this town invited it here. If we do not find the source, the attacks will not stop." Desperate for answers, they sought out the oldest living resident of Ravenswood, an ailing woman named Margaret Holloway. When they spoke Malom's name, she shuddered. Her voice shook as she spoke of the past. "This has happened before," she confessed. 60 years ago, when I was a child, pregnant women went missing. Their babies were never born. My own mother was one of them. She led them to the outskirts of town, to a house that had long been abandoned. The windows were broken, the wood rotting, the floors stained dark with something that was not old wine. The house had belonged to a midwife, one accused of witchcraft, one the town had burned alive. Before she died, she had cursed them. She had called upon Malom, offering it the souls of the unborn as payment for her suffering. The town buried the truth, but Malom never forgot. Determined to end the nightmare, Father Thomas, John, Michael, and a handful of others gathered in the church. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, Sarah sat rigid in a chair, her face pale, her hands trembling as the thing inside her fought to take hold. When she spoke, her voice was not her own. The air grew cold. The doors slammed shut. A shadow coiled in the rafters, something not fully formed, shifting, watching. Then Malom stepped forward. It had no true shape, only twisting limbs and empty eyes, a thing caught between this world and the next. The scent of decay filled the air as it moved closer. The first splash of holy water sizzled against its skin. The prayers came fast, but Malom only laughed. The lights flickered. The walls trembled. The air grew thick with screams. Then Sarah gasped. "I remember," she choked out. "I remember what it told me." Father Thomas turned to her, desperate. "What did it say?" She swallowed hard. "It doesn't want to take the babies. It wants to be born." A sickening realization filled the room. John stepped back, hand over his mouth. Michael gripped the dagger they had taken from the midwife's altar, a rusted blade that had once belonged to the woman who had cursed them all. With a cry, he drove the dagger into the church floor, into the heart of the town's sins. Malom shrieked, its body twisting, pulling apart at the seams. The shadows trembled, the air crackled, and then, with one final, guttural scream, the thing broke. Silence followed. The lights stopped flickering. The air grew warm. The town was safe. But as Sarah rested her hands against her belly, feeling the soft movement of her unborn child, a chill crept through her bones. Deep beneath the church, where no one could see, something stirred.